You are fighting battles every single day. Mental battles, emotional battles, battles against weakness, distraction, and comfort. But you are fighting like a civilian. Scattered, reactive, unprepared. Warriors think differently. They train their minds like weapons. They approach every day like a mission. They win battles before most people even recognize a battle is happening. This audiobook will teach you to think like a warrior, to approach every challenge with a mental toughness that turns ordinary people into unstoppable forces. Stop thinking like a civilian. Start thinking like a warrior. The mental battlefield awaits. Chapter 1. Your mind is a battlefield. Stop pretending it's not. Your mind is a battlefield. Right now, this moment, whether you acknowledge it or not. Every single day, you face mental combat. Difficult decisions under pressure. Emotional challenges that test your composure. Disciplinary choices between what you want and what you need. This is not a metaphor. This is reality. You are fighting battles constantly. The question is whether you are fighting like a warrior or losing like a civilian. Most people pretend the battlefield does not exist. They go through their day reactive and unprepared. They hope things work out. They wish for favorable circumstances. They cross their fingers that today will not test them. This is civilian thinking. And civilian thinking guarantees civilian results. You have a choice. Acknowledge the mental battlefield and train accordingly, or remain a civilian who wonders why life keeps defeating you. That is the key. Warriors recognize the battlefield. Civilians ignore it until they are already losing. The warrior wakes up knowing that today will present challenges. Decisions that require clarity under pressure. Emotions that demand control. Temptations that test discipline. The warrior does not hope these challenges do not arrive. The warrior prepares for them before they do. This preparation is the difference between victory and defeat. Consider what happens in your mind every single day. You wake up and immediately face the battle between discipline and comfort. Get up now or hit snooze. This is a battle. You chose one or the other. At work, you face the battle between focused execution and distracted procrastination. Do the hard thing or avoid it. This is a battle. You chose. In relationships, you face the battle between controlled response and emotional reaction. Stay calm or explode. This is a battle. You chose. Every choice is a battle. Every decision is combat. Every moment of discipline versus impulse is warfare happening inside your head. The civilian does not see this. The civilian thinks they're just living their life, making choices, doing their best. They do not recognize that every choice is training them for strength or weakness. Every decision is moving them toward victory or defeat. Every moment is preparing them for bigger battles or bigger losses. Warriors think differently. The warrior recognizes that the mind is under constant assault. Assault from weakness that whispers you cannot do this. Assault from distraction that pulls focus away from what matters. Assault from comfort-seeking that promises ease if you just surrender this once. These are not innocent thoughts. These are enemy forces attacking your position. And if you do not recognize them as attacks, you will lose without understanding what happened. The difference between warriors and civilians is not talent. You have a choice. It is not luck. It is not genetics. It is not the circumstances. The difference is preparation. Warriors prepare for battles that civilians do not see coming. The warrior anticipates the morning battle between discipline and comfort and decides the night before what time the alarm sounds and what happens when it does. The civilian hopes they will feel motivated when the alarm rings. The warrior wins. The civilian loses. The warrior anticipates the work battle between execution and procrastination and structures the environment before temptation arrives. Phone off. Door closed. Distractions eliminated. The civilian enters the workday, hoping they will somehow focus despite every distraction being one click away. The warrior wins. The civilian loses. The warrior anticipates the emotional battle and practices the pause between stimulus and response. The civilian reacts immediately and wonders why they keep destroying relationships. The warrior wins. The civilian loses. That is the key. Preparation before the battle determines the outcome of the battle. You cannot develop strength when the battle has already begun. You can only reveal the strength you already built. The executive who stays calm during crisis built that calm through smaller challenges over years. The soldier who functions during combat trained that function through countless simulations. You do not suddenly become mentally tough when pressure arrives. You either already are or you are not. This is why most people lose battles they never knew they were fighting. They do not train. They do not prepare. They do not recognize the battlefield. So when the battle arrives, they collapse. They lose the job to someone who prepared better. They lose the relationship to their own uncontrolled emotions. They lose the opportunity to someone who maintained discipline while they surrendered to comfort. The battlefield does not care whether you acknowledge it. The battles happen regardless. You have a choice right now. Continue pretending your mind is not a battlefield and keep losing, or acknowledge the reality of constant mental combat and start preparing like a warrior. This is not about becoming paranoid. This is not about being constantly stressed. This is about recognition and preparation. You recognize that challenges will come. You prepare for them before they arrive. You train in peace so you can fight in war. What does this preparation look like practically? You identify the battles you face repeatedly. The morning discipline battle, the work focus battle, the emotional control battle, the impulse versus discipline battle. You name them. You anticipate them. You prepare responses before the battles begin. You decide tonight what time you wake up tomorrow. You decide before you enter the workday what you will accomplish. You decide before the trigger arrives how you will respond instead of react. This is preparation. This is the warrior mindset. The civilian mindset is hope. Hope you will feel motivated. Hope circumstances will be favorable. Hope you will handle things well when they arrive. Hope is not strategy. Hope is surrender disguised as optimism. The warrior does not hope. The warrior prepares. The warrior knows that feelings are unreliable. Circumstances are unpredictable. Challenges are inevitable. So the warrior builds capacity before capacity is demanded. Trains responses before responses are needed. Develops strength before strength is tested. Your mind is a battlefield. This is not optional. This is not something you can choose to make true or false. This is reality. The only choice you have is whether you fight like a warrior who prepared or lose like a civilian who hoped. That is the key. Stop pretending this is not happening. Stop acting like you can just wing it and somehow things will work out. Stop hoping your way through battles that require preparation. Treat your mind like the battlefield it is. Recognize the enemy forces: weakness, distraction, comfort-seeking, emotional reactivity. These are not your friends offering helpful suggestions. These are enemies trying to destroy your position. When weakness whispers you cannot do this, that is an attack. Defend your position. When distraction offers easy entertainment, that is an attack. Defend your position. When comfort promises relief if you just quit this once, that is an attack. Defend your position. Warriors defend their mental position. Civilians surrender it without realizing they were under attack. You have a choice. Which one are you? The answer is revealed not by what you say, but by what you do. Do you prepare before battles arrive? Do you train when no pressure demands it? Do you build strength before strength is tested? If yes, you think like a warrior. If no, you think like a civilian. And you will get the results that mindset produces. The mental battlefield is real. The battles happen every day. The only question is whether you recognize this reality and prepare accordingly, or whether you continue pretending it is not happening and keep wondering why you lose. You understand now that your mind is a battlefield. You cannot pretend otherwise any longer. The battles are happening. Start fighting like a warrior. You recognize the battlefield. Now you must train for it. Chapter 2. Train before the battle, not during it. You do not rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of training. That is the key. When pressure arrives, when crisis hits, when the battle begins, you do not suddenly become more capable than you were before. You become exactly what you trained to become. The executive who stays calm during crisis did not develop that calm when the crisis started. The calm was built through years of smaller pressures. The soldier who functions during combat did not learn to function when bullets started flying. That function was trained through countless simulations before live fire ever happened. This is what civilians do not understand. They think the battle is when you develop strength. The battle is when you reveal strength. You have a choice. Train before the battle and have strength to reveal. Or skip training and reveal weakness when the battle tests you. Most people skip training. They stay comfortable. They avoid difficulty. They tell themselves they will handle things when the time comes. Then the time comes and they collapse. Warriors think differently. Warriors know that crisis reveals training. It does not create it. So warriors train before crisis arrives. They create artificial pressure during peacetime. They voluntarily choose discomfort when comfort is available. They build capacity before capacity is demanded. This is not optional for the warrior. This is fundamental. You train before the battle or you lose during the battle. There is no third option. Consider what happens when someone who never trained faces sudden pressure. A difficult conversation they did not prepare for. A physical challenge they did not condition for. A mental test they did not practice for. They panic. They freeze. They fail. Not because they are incapable, because they are untrained. The capacity was possible. The training did not happen. So when the test arrived, failure was guaranteed. Now, consider what happens when someone who trained constantly faces that same pressure. The difficult conversation they rehearsed 100 times in private. The physical challenge they conditioned for through daily discipline. The mental test they practice through voluntary hardship. They execute. They perform. They succeed. Same pressure. Different outcome. The difference is training. That is the key. Training before the battle determines performance during the battle. You have a choice. Train now or fail later. Most people choose to fail later. They choose comfort now. They avoid difficulty. They skip the hard workouts. They dodge the uncomfortable conversations. They eliminate voluntary challenge from their lives entirely. Then they wonder why they cannot handle involuntary challenge when it arrives. The answer is obvious. You did not train. You cannot handle what you did not prepare for. The warrior's training protocol is simple but not easy. Daily mental conditioning. Every single day, you create pressure that is not required. You choose discomfort that is not forced. You engage difficulty that is optional. This training has one purpose: build capacity for handling difficulty that will not be optional. The cold shower is not about being clean. The cold shower is training discomfort tolerance. The hard workout is not about fitness alone. The hard workout is training the mind to dominate the body when the body wants to quit. The difficult conversation you initiate is not about resolving that one issue. The difficult conversation is training conflict capacity for when conflict finds you. The voluntary fasting is not about weight loss. The voluntary fasting is training discipline over impulse when impulse screams for satisfaction. Every voluntary challenge is preparation for involuntary challenge. That is the key. You create optional difficulty to prepare for mandatory difficulty. Civilians do not do this. Civilians maximize comfort. They take the easy path. They avoid every difficulty they can avoid. This feels intelligent in the moment. Why choose discomfort when comfort is available? Why make things harder than they need to be? But this comfort seeking is training. It is training for weakness. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you practice being soft. Every time you take the easy path, you reinforce patterns of ease seeking. Every time you avoid difficulty, You train for collapse when difficulty becomes unavoidable. You have a choice. Train for strength or train for weakness. You're training either way. Choosing comfort is training just as much as choosing challenge. The difference is what you're training for. Comfort trains you to need comfort. Challenge trains you to handle challenge. Most people train for weakness their entire lives and then wonder why they are weak when strength is required. Warriors train for strength, not occasionally, daily. The warrior wakes up and immediately engages challenge. Physical movement that defeats the body's preference for staying still. Cold exposure that trains tolerance for discomfort. Mental stillness practice that builds focus capacity. This is not because the warrior enjoys these practices. This is because the warrior knows these practices are training for battles that will inevitably arrive. Consider the morning cold shower. Your body screams no. Every nerve ending protests. Comfort is available. Hot water is right there. You have a choice. Choose hot water and train your mind to surrender when the body protests. Or choose cold water and train your mind to dominate the body's protests. The cold shower is 3 minutes. But those 3 minutes are training that transfers to every other domain. The mind that can force the body into cold water can force the body to continue the workout when fatigue arrives. Can force the mouth to stay closed when anger wants to speak. Can force the hands to keep working when comfort calls. That is the key. The specific training transfers to general capacity. You're not just training for cold showers. You're training the mind's ability to override the body's preferences. You're not just training for hard workouts. You're training perseverance when things get difficult. You're not just training for difficult conversations. You're training courage when fear suggests avoidance. Every specific training builds general capacity that applies everywhere. The civilian who avoids all voluntary discomfort has zero capacity for involuntary discomfort. When life forces challenge upon them, they collapse immediately. They have no training to draw from, no practiced responses, no built capacity. They are completely unprepared for difficulty they spent their entire life avoiding. Then difficulty arrives anyway because difficulty is inevitable. And they fail because failure was inevitable given their lack of training. You have a choice right now. Continue avoiding voluntary challenge and remain unprepared for involuntary challenge. Or start training today so you are ready when testing arrives. This is not about becoming masochistic. This is not about seeking suffering for its own sake. This is about strategic preparation. You know challenges will come. You know pressure will arrive. You know battles will happen. So you prepare before they do. What does this preparation look like practically? You identify 3 daily non-negotiables. 3 challenges you engage every single day, regardless of how you feel. Physical challenge. Your body will protest. You will not feel like it. Do it anyway. This is training. Mental challenge. Your mind will resist. Stillness feels boring. Focus feels hard. Do it anyway. This is training. Courage challenge. Fear will suggest avoidance. Comfort will seem wiser. Do it anyway. This is training. These 3 daily practices build the capacity you will need when life tests you. The physical challenge builds perseverance. The mental challenge builds focus. The courage challenge builds bravery. You do not do these practices because today requires them. You do these practices because tomorrow might. That is the key. Training happens before the battle, not during it. You cannot suddenly develop strength when the battle has already begun. Civilians wait until the battle to try developing strength. They wait until the crisis to attempt building calm. They wait until the challenge to start building capacity. This is backwards. This is guaranteed failure. The battle is not when you develop. The battle is when you deploy what you already developed. If you did not develop anything before the battle, you have nothing to deploy during the battle. You understand now that training must happen before testing. You cannot wait for the battle to develop battle-ready capacity. The time to train is now, when no battle demands it, when no crisis requires it, when you could choose comfort instead. That is when warriors train in peace. So they are ready for war. You have been living like a civilian, comfortable, untrained, unprepared. That ends today. You will train before the battle. Starting now, you recognize that crisis reveals training. Now you must build the training worth revealing. Chapter 3. Discipline is non-negotiable. Motivation is irrelevant. Motivation is a lie. Not because it does not exist, because it is unreliable. Motivation arrives uninvited. It departs without warning. You cannot command it to appear when you need it. You cannot force it to stay when it decides to leave. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are terrible commanders. That is the key. Warriors do not rely on motivation. Warriors rely on discipline. Discipline is non-negotiable. Motivation is irrelevant. Consider what happens when you base action on motivation. Monday, you feel motivated. You train hard. You eat clean. You execute perfectly. Tuesday, the motivation is gone. You skip the workout. You eat garbage. You accomplish nothing. Wednesday, motivation returns. You're back on track. Thursday, it disappears again. You are off track. This cycle continues forever. You're not progressing. You are bouncing between motivated action and unmotivated inaction. This is the civilian pattern, action determined by feeling. Warriors reject this pattern entirely. The warrior does not ask, am I motivated? The warrior asks, what did I commit to? Then the warrior executes that commitment. You have a choice. Keep waiting for motivation to drive action and remain a slave to your feelings. Or build discipline that executes regardless of feelings and become master of your actions. Most people choose slavery. They wait for the right feeling before they act. They never develop discipline because they never need to. Motivation handles everything until motivation disappears. Then they do nothing. Discipline is different. Discipline is decision made in advance. Decision that does not negotiate with how you feel in the moment. You decided yesterday that you train today. Today arrives. You do not feel like training. Discipline does not care. The decision was made. The execution follows. No negotiation. No debate. No checking whether you feel like it. You committed. You execute. That is discipline. That is the key. Civilians think discipline means forcing yourself to do things you do not want to do. This is partially true, but misses the deeper truth. Discipline means you are someone who does certain things. Period. Not someone who tries to do things. Not someone who does things when motivated. Someone who does things. The distinction matters enormously. When discipline is identity, execution is automatic. You do not debate whether to brush your teeth. You brush your teeth because you're someone who brushes teeth. The action flows from identity. Warriors build this with everything that matters. You do not debate whether to train. You train because you're someone who trains. You do not negotiate about the difficult conversation. You have the conversation because you're someone who faces difficulty. You do not question whether to maintain standards. You maintain standards because you're someone with standards. The behavior reflects the identity. The identity makes discipline automatic. You have a choice. Remain someone who acts based on motivation, or become someone who acts based on discipline. The first identity makes you unreliable. You're great when you feel great. You are terrible when you feel terrible. The second identity makes you consistent. You are disciplined when you feel motivated. You are disciplined when you feel unmotivated. Feelings change constantly. Identity remains stable. Build identity that serves you. That is the key. Discipline as identity rather than discipline as effort. When discipline is effort, you constantly fight yourself. You try to force action when you do not feel like acting. This works sometimes. It fails frequently. You cannot sustain constant internal warfare against your own resistance. Eventually, you exhaust yourself. Eventually, you surrender. Eventually, you quit. This is why civilians fail. They try to use willpower to override motivation. Willpower depletes. Motivation returns unpredictably. The system collapses. Warriors do not fight this battle. Warriors eliminate the battle by building identity. You're not trying to become disciplined. You're a disciplined person. The shift sounds small. The impact is massive. When you're trying to become disciplined, every action requires effort. You must force yourself. You must overcome resistance. You must generate willpower. When you're a disciplined person, action is automatic. You do not force. You simply are. The disciplined person acts disciplined. Just like the tall person is tall. No effort required. It is identity. How do you build this identity? You decide who you are. Then you act consistently with that decision. You decide you're someone who trains daily. Then you train daily. Not when you feel like it. Daily. The consistency builds the identity. The identity makes consistency automatic. After 30 days of training regardless of motivation, you become someone who trains. After 90 days, the identity is solid. After 1 year, questioning whether you will train becomes absurd. You're someone who trains. Of course you will train. Civilians never reach this point. They train when motivated. They skip when unmotivated. They never build consistency. They never establish identity. They remain someone trying to be disciplined rather than someone who is disciplined. You have a choice. Keep trying and keep failing. Or commit completely and become. The difference between trying and being is commitment without negotiation. That is the key. Non-negotiable commitment. You do not negotiate with feelings. You do not debate with resistance. You do not question whether today is the day you execute. Every day is the day you execute. Because you committed. Because you decided who you are. Because discipline is non-negotiable. Motivation suggests you skip today. Discipline does not acknowledge the suggestion. Comfort offers relief if you quit this once. Discipline does not consider the offer. Fatigue claims you have earned a break. Discipline does not recognize earned breaks from identity. You are someone who does certain things. Those things happen. Regardless. This is the warrior mindset. The warrior does not wake up and check motivation levels before deciding whether to execute. The warrior wakes up and executes. Period. The mission is the mission. The commitment is the commitment. Feelings observe but do not command. That is discipline. That is what makes warriors reliable when civilians fail. Consider what this means practically. You committed to 3 non-negotiables. Physical training, mental practice, courage action. These 3 happen daily. Not most days. Daily. Monday you feel great. You execute all 3. Tuesday you feel terrible. You execute all 3. Same actions. Different feelings. Feelings are irrelevant. The commitment determines action. The discipline overrides motivation. You become reliable. You become consistent. You become a warrior. Civilians look at this and think it sounds miserable. Doing things you do not feel like doing every single day. But this perspective misses the freedom discipline creates. When discipline is identity, you're not fighting yourself. You're being yourself. The disciplined person trains. This is not struggle. This is nature. The bird flies. The fish swims. The disciplined person trains. No internal warfare. No willpower depletion. No motivation required. Just identity expressing itself through action. You have a choice right now. Continue being someone who acts based on feelings and remain unreliable. Or become someone who acts based on discipline and become unstoppable. The first path is easier today. The second path is easier forever. Civilians choose easy today. Warriors choose easy forever. The warrior knows that building discipline is hard, but living without discipline is harder. The civilian never learns this. The civilian chooses immediate ease and wonders why life stays hard. Discipline is non-negotiable. This does not mean discipline is easy. This means discipline does not negotiate with difficulty. The action is hard. You do it anyway. The commitment is uncomfortable. You honor it anyway. The execution requires effort. You provide it anyway. Non-negotiable means the difficulty does not change the outcome. You committed. You execute. The difficulty is acknowledged. The execution proceeds. That is the key. Motivation sleeps. Discipline works. This is the warrior truth. When you feel motivated, enjoy it. When motivation disappears, discipline continues. You do not need motivation to execute. You need commitment. You need identity. You need discipline. These three make motivation irrelevant. You act not because you feel like acting. You act because you're someone who acts. The feeling is bonus. The action is inevitable. You understand now that motivation cannot be trusted. You understand that discipline must be built. You understand that identity determines action more than effort ever could. Stop waiting for motivation. Start building discipline. Stop trying to become. Start being. You're a disciplined person. Act accordingly. Every day, regardless of how you feel. This is non-negotiable. You have discipline now. Next, you must understand what that discipline will teach you. Chapter 4. Pain is information. Suffering is education. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. But you've been running from the teacher your entire life. Every discomfort avoided. Every difficulty escaped. Every challenge sidestepped. You thought you were being smart. You thought you were minimizing suffering. You were not. You were refusing education. That is the key. Civilians avoid pain and stay ignorant. Warriors engage pain and become educated. The difference is not pain tolerance. The difference is pain interpretation. Consider how civilians view pain. Physical pain is bad. Emotional pain is terrible. Mental pain is something to eliminate immediately. This interpretation makes pain purely negative. Something to numb. Something to escape. Something to avoid at all costs. So the civilian builds an entire life around pain avoidance. They avoid difficult workouts. They avoid hard conversations. They avoid challenging situations. They stay in the comfort zone where pain cannot reach them, and they wonder why they never grow. Warriors view pain completely differently. Physical pain signals what needs strengthening. The muscle that hurts is the muscle that is adapting. The discomfort in the workout is information about current limits and future capacity. Emotional pain reveals what needs processing. The relationship that hurts is showing you patterns that need changing. The rejection that stings is teaching you lessons about resilience. Mental pain indicates what needs attention. The difficulty concentrating is information about focus capacity. The struggle with discipline is data about commitment depth. You have a choice. Keep interpreting pain as purely negative and keep avoiding your education. Or reframe pain as information delivery system and start learning from every discomfort. That is the key. Pain is not punishment. Pain is feedback. The warrior who learns from pain grows stronger. The civilian who avoids pain stays weak. Same pain, different response, different outcome. This does not mean warriors enjoy pain. This does not mean warriors seek suffering for its own sake. This means warriors recognize that pain contains lessons that comfort never teaches. Comfort teaches you nothing except how to be comfortable. Comfort is a terrible teacher because life is not comfortable. Life is difficult. Life is challenging. Life is painful. The person who only learns in comfort is unprepared for reality. The person who learns through pain is prepared for anything. Consider what suffering teaches that comfort cannot. Suffering teaches resilience. You do not learn how much you can endure until endurance is required. Suffering teaches character. You do not discover who you really are until pressure reveals it. Suffering teaches capacity. You do not understand your limits until those limits are tested. Suffering teaches priorities. You do not know what matters until suffering strips away what is not. These lessons are invaluable. These lessons are only available through suffering. Comfort cannot teach them. The civilian who avoids all suffering never learns these lessons. They reach 40 years old and have no idea what they can actually endure. They have never been tested. They have no data about their capacity. When inevitable suffering finally arrives, because suffering is inevitable, they collapse immediately. They have no resilience built, no character developed, no understanding of their capacity. They are completely unprepared, and they suffer enormously because they never learned how to suffer productively. Warriors learn how to suffer productively. They do not wait for inevitable suffering. They create voluntary suffering that trains them for involuntary suffering. That is the key. Voluntary hardship prepares you for involuntary hardship. The cold shower you choose teaches lessons about the cold circumstances you do not choose. The difficult workout you select builds capacity for difficult situations that select you. The fasting you control trains discipline for the hunger you cannot control. You have a choice. Avoid all voluntary suffering and collapse when involuntary suffering arrives. Or engage voluntary suffering and build capacity for handling involuntary suffering. Most people choose avoidance. They maximize comfort. They eliminate all optional discomfort. Then life forces involuntary discomfort upon them. Because life does this to everyone eventually, and they have zero capacity to handle it. They never trained. They never practiced. They never learned how to suffer productively. So they suffer unproductively, badly, destructively, without growth. Warriors suffer productively. When pain arrives, the warrior asks, "What is this teaching me?" Not "Why is this happening to me?" Not "How can I avoid this?" What is this teaching me? That is the key. The question changes everything. Why is this happening creates victimhood. What is this teaching creates education. The civilian asks why and stays stuck in suffering. The warrior asks what and extracts lessons from suffering. Consider physical pain during training. The muscle burns. The lungs scream. The body wants to quit. The civilian interprets this as damage. Stop immediately. Avoid this pain. Never do this again. The warrior interprets this as information. This muscle is weak. This cardiovascular capacity is limited. This mental toughness needs development. The pain is data. The data guides training. The training builds capacity. The capacity makes you stronger. The civilian avoids the pain and stays weak. The warrior engages the pain and becomes strong. Consider emotional pain during difficulty. The relationship ends. The rejection stings. The failure hurts. The civilian interprets this as tragedy. Why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? How can I avoid feeling this way? This interpretation creates suffering without growth. The warrior interprets this as education. What patterns led to this outcome? What behaviors need changing? What lessons is this pain teaching? This interpretation creates suffering with growth. Same pain, different interpretation, different outcome. You have a choice right now. Continue interpreting pain as purely negative, or start interpreting pain as information and education. The first interpretation keeps you stuck. The second interpretation moves you forward. That is the key. Pain interpreted correctly becomes a catalyst for growth. Pain interpreted incorrectly becomes the reason for stagnation. Your interpretation determines whether pain destroys you or develops you. The warrior's relationship with pain is strategic. Pain is not sought for its own sake. Pain is engaged when pain serves growth. The warrior does not become masochistic. The warrior becomes educated. Every pain is examined for lessons. Every discomfort is analyzed for information. Every difficulty is processed for growth. This is not a weakness. This is wisdom. Civilians think avoiding pain is smart. Warriors know engaging pain intelligently is smarter. Consider suffering at the larger scale. Life will inevitably bring suffering you did not choose. Loss, failure, betrayal, illness, difficulty. These are not optional. These arrive regardless of how carefully you try to avoid them. You have a choice. When this involuntary suffering arrives, will you suffer productively or unproductively? Will you extract lessons or just experience pain? Will you grow or just hurt? The difference is your relationship with suffering. The warrior who trained through voluntary suffering is prepared for involuntary suffering. The cold showers taught that discomfort is survivable. The hard workouts taught that pain is temporary. The difficult conversations taught that courage is buildable. The voluntary fasting taught that impulses are controllable. All this voluntary training created capacity for handling involuntary difficulty. When involuntary suffering arrives, the warrior has practiced responses. The civilian who avoided all voluntary suffering has no practiced responses. They face involuntary suffering completely unprepared. That is the key. Voluntary suffering is training for involuntary suffering. You do not wait for life to force suffering upon you. You create controlled suffering that teaches you how to handle uncontrolled suffering. This is strategic. This is intelligent. This is the warrior approach. The civilian approach is avoiding all suffering until suffering becomes unavoidable. Then suffering overwhelms them because they never learned how to suffer productively. You understand now that pain is information. You understand that suffering is education. You understand that avoiding pain is refusing your education. Stop running from the teacher. Start learning from every discomfort. Pain is trying to teach you. Suffering is trying to educate you. Pay attention. Extract lessons. Grow stronger. This is how warriors think. This is how warriors develop. Through pain engaged intelligently rather than pain avoided reflexively. You accept pain as a teacher now. Next, you must understand what you actually control. Chapter 5. Control your response, not your circumstances. You're trying to control the uncontrollable. Traffic, weather, the economy, other people's decisions, other people's opinions, other people's actions. You waste enormous energy attempting to control things that are not controllable. This waste of energy is destroying your peace, destroying your power, destroying your effectiveness. That is the key. Civilians try to control circumstances. Warriors control their response. The difference determines who maintains power and who loses it. Consider what happens when you try to control the uncontrollable. You sit in traffic getting angry, as if your anger changes traffic. You rage about the weather, as if your rage affects the weather. You stress about the economy, as if your stress controls economic forces. You obsess over what someone thinks about you, as if your obsession changes their thoughts. None of this works. You cannot control these things, but you keep trying, and the trying creates frustration, powerlessness, anxiety, rage. Warriors recognize this pattern and reject it completely. You cannot control traffic. You can control whether you leave earlier next time. You can control whether you use traffic time for learning. You can control your emotional response to being delayed. These are within your power. The traffic is not. You have a choice. Keep trying to control traffic and stay frustrated. Or control your response to traffic and stay powerful. That is the key. Your power lives in your response, not in your circumstances. This is the fundamental distinction between civilian thinking and warrior thinking. Civilians believe circumstances determine outcomes. Bad circumstances create bad outcomes. Good circumstances create good outcomes. This belief makes civilians completely dependent on circumstances. When circumstances are favorable, civilians do well. When circumstances are unfavorable, civilians collapse. Their entire life is determined by forces outside their control. This is powerlessness. Warriors believe response determines outcomes. Difficult circumstances plus controlled response create growth. Favorable circumstances plus undisciplined response create waste. The circumstance matters less than what you do with the circumstance. That is the key. You cannot always choose what happens. You can always choose what you do about what happens. This choice is your power, the only power that actually belongs to you. The power of response. Consider two people facing identical circumstances. The economy crashes. Both lose their jobs. Same circumstance. One person spirals into depression, blames the economy. blames the government, blames their employer, becomes bitter, stays unemployed, suffers. The other person assesses the situation, updates skills, networks aggressively, finds new opportunity, grows. Same circumstance, different response, different outcome. The circumstance did not determine the outcome. The response determined the outcome. You have a choice. Keep believing circumstances control your life and remain powerless, or recognize that response controls outcomes and become powerful. Most people choose powerlessness, not consciously, but through their focus. They focus entirely on circumstances. They complain about circumstances. They wish circumstances were different. They wait for circumstances to improve. All this focus on circumstances reinforces the belief that circumstances matter most. And this belief guarantees powerlessness. Warriors focus differently. Warriors focus on response. Not what happened. What will I do about what happened? Not what they said. How will I respond to what they said? Not what went wrong. How will I adapt to what went wrong? This focus creates power, because response is controllable. Circumstances are not. Focusing on what you control creates agency. Focusing on what you cannot control creates victimhood. You choose your focus. Your focus determines your power. That is the key. The locus of control must be internal. Internal locus of control means you believe your actions determine outcomes more than external circumstances do. External locus of control means you believe circumstances determine outcomes more than your actions do. Research shows this clearly. Internal locus of control correlates with success, happiness, resilience, achievement. External locus of control correlates with failure, depression, helplessness, underperformance. Your belief about what controls outcomes shapes your actual outcomes. Civilians have external locus of control. They believe circumstances control their lives. So when circumstances are bad, they are powerless. They wait for circumstances to change. They hope for better conditions. They do nothing because they believe nothing they do matters compared to circumstances. This belief becomes self-fulfilling. They do nothing. Nothing changes. Circumstances stay bad. They stay powerless. The cycle continues. Warriors have internal locus of control. They believe their responses control their lives more than circumstances do. So when circumstances are bad, they are still powerful. They do not wait for circumstances to change. They change their response to circumstances. They adapt. They overcome. They find ways forward despite unfavorable conditions. This belief becomes self-fulfilling. They take action. Things change. Outcomes improve. They prove their power. The cycle continues. You have a choice right now. Maintain external locus of control and remain a victim of circumstances. Or develop internal locus of control and become master of responses. The first is easier to believe. The second is more accurate. Circumstances influence outcomes, but response determines outcomes. Your response is more powerful than any circumstance. When you believe this and act accordingly, you prove it true. Consider what this means practically. Traffic delays you. You cannot control traffic. You can control your response. You breathe. You accept the delay. You use the time productively. You arrive calm instead of enraged. Someone criticizes you. You cannot control their criticism. You can control your response. You consider whether the criticism contains truth. You extract any useful feedback. You discard the rest. You remain composed instead of defensive. Rejection happens. You cannot control who rejects you. You can control your response. You analyze what you can improve. You apply those lessons. You continue forward instead of staying stuck. That is the key. Every situation contains two elements. The circumstance you did not choose. The response you do choose. Civilians obsess over the first. Warriors focus on the second. The circumstance is what it is. The response is what you make it. Your power lives in making your response serve you regardless of what the circumstance is. This is the warrior's control. Not control over what happens. Control over what you do about what happens. This requires building the gap between stimulus and response. Something happens. Before reacting, you pause. In that pause lives your power. The pause lets you choose response instead of defaulting to reaction. Most people have no pause. Something happens. They react immediately. The reaction is automatic, emotional, unconsidered, often destructive. Then they wonder why their reactions keep creating problems. The problem is not the stimulus. The problem is the absent pause that would allow chosen response instead of automatic reaction. Warriors build this pause deliberately. Something triggers you. You notice the trigger. You notice the impulse to react. You pause. You breathe. You consider. You choose response. Then you execute that chosen response. This process takes seconds, but those seconds contain enormous power. The power to respond wisely instead of react stupidly. The power to maintain control instead of lose control. The power to create good outcomes instead of generate disasters. You have a choice. Continue reacting automatically to circumstances and wonder why your reactions keep failing you. Or build the pause that lets you respond deliberately and watch your outcomes improve. That is the key. Automatic reaction surrenders control to circumstances. Deliberate response maintains control through choice. The civilian reacts. The warrior responds. Same stimulus, different process, different outcome. Building this capacity requires practice. You do not suddenly develop the pause when crisis arrives. You build the pause through daily practice in small moments. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Notice the anger. Pause. Breathe. Choose response. Someone says something annoying. Notice the irritation. Pause. Breathe. Choose response. Something unexpected happens. Notice the resistance. Pause. Breathe. Choose response. Each small practice strengthens the capacity. Each strengthening makes the pause more available during larger challenges. After enough practice, the pause becomes automatic. Not the response. The pause. Something happens. The pause activates. Within the pause, you choose. This is mastery. This is the warrior's control. Not control over what happens to you. Control over how you respond to what happens to you. Circumstances no longer dictate outcomes. Your chosen responses dictate outcomes. You're no longer victim of external forces. You are master of internal choices. You understand now that controlling circumstances is impossible. You understand that controlling response is essential. You understand that your power lives in the gap between what happens and what you do about what happens. Stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Start controlling the controllable. Your response, your interpretation, your action, your emotional regulation. These are yours to control. Control them. That is where your power lives. You control your response now. Next, you must understand what actually drives that response. Chapter 6. The mission defines the warrior, not the feelings. You're being commanded by your feelings. Right now, every day, your emotions are giving orders and you are obeying. You feel motivated. You act. You feel discouraged. You quit. You feel brave. You engage. You feel afraid. You avoid. This emotional dictatorship is destroying your effectiveness, destroying your consistency, destroying your results. That is the key. Civilians let feelings command action. Warriors let mission command action. Feelings are valuable information. Feelings are terrible commanders. Consider what happens when feelings determine behavior. Monday morning, you feel energized. You attack your goals. You execute perfectly. You make progress. Tuesday morning, you feel tired. You skip your commitments. You accomplish nothing. You lose momentum. Wednesday, you feel motivated again. You restart. Thursday, the motivation disappears. You stop again. This cycle continues endlessly. You are not moving forward. You are bouncing between emotional highs and emotional lows. The feelings drive everything. The mission achieves nothing. Warriors reject this pattern completely. The warrior does not consult feelings before acting. The warrior consults mission. What is the mission? Execute the mission. How do you feel about the mission? Irrelevant. The mission is the commander. Feelings are advisors that provide information but do not determine action. You have a choice. Keep letting feelings command you and remain inconsistent. Or let mission command you and become reliable. That is the key. Mission-driven action is consistent. Emotion-driven action is chaotic. This does not mean warriors ignore feelings. Warriors acknowledge feelings. Warriors notice feelings. Warriors consider information that feelings provide. But warriors do not obey feelings. The distinction matters enormously. Civilians think if they feel afraid, they should avoid. If they feel unmotivated, they should rest. If they feel angry, they should express. The feeling determines the action. This makes them slaves to whatever emotion happens to be dominant. Warriors think differently. The warrior feels afraid, acknowledges the fear, notes that the situation carries risk, then asks, does the mission require action despite fear? If yes, the warrior acts despite fear. The feeling is noted. The mission is obeyed. The warrior feels unmotivated, acknowledges the low energy, notes that today will require more discipline, then asks, does the mission require execution despite lack of motivation? If yes, the warrior executes despite lack of motivation. The feeling is noted. The mission is obeyed. You have a choice. Let feelings determine action and become unreliable, or let mission determine action and become unstoppable. Most people never make this choice consciously. They default to emotional command. They have always obeyed feelings. They assume this is normal. It is normal. Normal produces normal results. Warriors are not normal. Warriors are exceptional. The difference is command structure. Civilians answer to feelings. Warriors answer to mission. That is the key. You must define your mission with ruthless clarity. Not what you wish your mission was. Not what sounds impressive. What is the actual mission you are committed to regardless of how you feel? Write it. Make it specific. Make it clear. Make it so explicit that there is zero confusion about what you are doing and why you are doing it. The mission is your commander. The mission tells you what to do. You obey the mission regardless of feelings. Consider what happens when mission is unclear. You have vague goals. Get in shape. Build a business. Improve relationships. These are not missions. These are wishes. Vague wishes provide zero guidance when feelings oppose action. You do not feel like training. Your vague goal of getting in shape does not override the feeling. You skip training. You do feel like eating poorly. Your vague goal does not prevent the poor eating. You eat poorly. Vague mission loses to strong feeling every single time. Now consider what happens when mission is crystal clear. You will train 6 days per week. 45 minutes minimum. No negotiation. This is mission. Morning arrives. You do not feel like training. Mission does not care how you feel. Mission says train. You train. Afternoon arrives. You feel like eating junk food. Mission says eating is controlled and planned. You follow the plan. The clear mission overrides unclear feelings. You execute despite resistance. That is the key. Clarity of mission defeats intensity of feeling. You have a choice. Maintain vague goals that lose to strong emotions, or define clear mission that commands regardless of emotions. The first keeps you stuck in emotional chaos. The second creates disciplined consistency. Warriors choose clarity. The mission is defined. The mission is explicit. The mission commands. Feelings observe. Actions follow mission. This is the warrior's operating system. Mission first. Feelings second. Always. This creates extraordinary reliability. The warrior with clear mission is the same person every day, not emotionally. Emotionally, the warrior varies like everyone varies. But behaviorally, the warrior is consistent. Same mission, same execution, different feelings, same actions. This reliability is what separates warriors from civilians. Civilians are different people depending on how they feel. Warriors are the same person regardless of how they feel. The mission makes them consistent. Consider the power of this consistency. The person who trains only when motivated trains inconsistently. Maybe 3 times this week. Maybe 0 times next week. Maybe 5 times the week after. The results reflect the inconsistency. Minimal progress. Frustration. Eventual quitting. The person who trains because mission commands trains consistently. 6 times this week. 6 times next week. 6 times every week. The results reflect the consistency. Steady progress. Compound improvement. Inevitable success. That is the key. Consistent action compounds. Inconsistent action cancels itself out. You train 3 times. You skip 4 days. You train twice. You skip 5 days. The training and the skipping cancel each other. No net progress. But you train 6 times. Then 6 more. Then 6 more. Each week builds on the previous week. The compound effect becomes massive. After 1 year of consistent mission-driven action versus 1 year of inconsistent emotion-driven action, the difference is not linear. The difference is exponential. You have a choice right now. Continue letting feelings drive action and continue getting inconsistent results. Or define clear mission and let mission drive action regardless of feelings. The second option is harder initially. Defining mission requires thought. Obeying mission requires discipline. But the second option is easier long-term. Emotional chaos is exhausting. Mission clarity is liberating. You know what you're doing. You do it. No internal debate. No emotional negotiation. Just execution. The warrior's mission eliminates the exhausting internal conversation that civilians have constantly. Should I train today? I do not feel like it. But I should. But I am tired. But I will feel better after. But what if I just rest? This conversation drains energy before any action happens. The warrior has no such conversation. The mission says train. The warrior trains. 0 energy wasted on debate. All energy directed toward execution. That is the key. Mission clarity eliminates decision fatigue. Civilians make the same decisions repeatedly. Every day, they decide whether to train, whether to eat well, whether to work hard, whether to maintain standards. These repeated decisions deplete willpower, create decision fatigue, generate internal resistance. By afternoon, willpower is gone. Discipline fails. They surrender to feelings. Warriors make decisions once. The mission is decided. The mission is permanent. There are no daily decisions about whether to execute mission. There is only execution. One decision. Infinite applications. You have a choice. Make the same decisions every day and exhaust yourself. Or make the decision once and execute forever. That is the key. Your mission is decided now, not every morning. Now, the mission is permanent until you explicitly change it, which you do rarely and deliberately. Not based on feelings, based on strategic assessment. Until then, the mission commands. You obey. Every day, regardless of feelings. This is liberation, not restriction. Civilians think mission-driven life sounds restrictive, rigid, inflexible, joyless. This is backwards. Emotion-driven life is exhausting. Constant internal warfare between what you committed to and what you feel like doing. Mission-driven life is peaceful. You know what you are doing. You do it. No warfare. No debate. No exhaustion from constant decision-making. The mission is decided. You execute. Feelings come and go. The mission remains. You remain consistent. Consider what your life looks like with clear mission commanding action. You wake up. The mission is train. You train. You do not consult feelings. You do not check motivation levels. You train because the mission says train. Work begins. The mission is focused execution. You execute with focus. You do not negotiate with distraction. You execute because the mission says execute. Evening arrives. The mission is controlled eating. You eat according to plan. You do not debate with cravings. You follow the plan because the mission says follow the plan. That is the key. The mission defines the action. The feelings observe the action. The action happens regardless of the feelings. This is warrior mentality. This is mission-driven life. This is how exceptional results are created. Not through emotional highs, through mission consistency. You execute the mission when you feel motivated. You execute the mission when you feel unmotivated. The execution is constant. The feelings are variable. The results compound. You understand now that feelings cannot command action. You understand that mission must command action. You understand that defining clear mission and obeying that mission regardless of feelings is what creates consistency. Define your mission now. Make it clear. Make it specific. Make it non-negotiable. Then obey it. Every day, regardless of how you feel. The mission is commander. You are the warrior executing the mission. Feelings are irrelevant. You serve the mission now. Next, you must embrace what the mission requires. Chapter 7. Embrace the suck. Comfort addiction makes you weak. You are addicted to comfort. Every choice reveals this addiction. You choose the easy path. You avoid difficulty. You eliminate discomfort. You maximize ease. This comfort-seeking feels intelligent. Why suffer when you can be comfortable? Why struggle when you can relax? Why choose hard when easy is available? This logic sounds reasonable. This logic is destroying you. That is the key. Comfort addiction makes you weak. Difficulty makes you strong. Warriors embrace the suck. Civilians avoid it and wonder why they stay soft. Consider what happens every time you choose comfort over challenge. You choose the warm bed over the cold morning. You train for comfort. You choose the easy workout over the hard one. You train for comfort. You choose the pleasant conversation over the difficult one. You train for comfort. Every comfort choice is training. Training for weakness. Training for softness. Training for collapse when difficulty becomes unavoidable. Because difficulty will become unavoidable. Life guarantees this, and you'll be unprepared. Warriors think differently about difficulty. The situation is hard. Good. Hard situations build capacity that easy situations cannot. The workout is brutal. Good. Brutal workouts forge toughness that comfortable workouts never develop. The conversation is uncomfortable. Good. Uncomfortable conversations build courage that pleasant conversations leave untouched. This is not toxic positivity. This is strategic recognition that difficulty is the only forge that creates strength. You have a choice. Avoid difficulty and stay weak. Embrace difficulty and become strong. That is the key. Embrace the suck. This phrase comes from military culture. When conditions are terrible, training is brutal, circumstances are miserable, warriors say embrace the suck. Not because they enjoy suffering, because they recognize suffering builds what comfort destroys. The suck is uncomfortable. The suck is difficult. The suck is the only environment that creates warriors. Civilians avoid the suck. Warriors embrace it. Same difficulty, different interpretation, different outcome. Consider what the suck actually does. The suck reveals weakness. You cannot hide weakness when conditions are difficult. Every soft spot is exposed. Every limitation is revealed. Every underdeveloped capacity becomes obvious. This revelation is valuable. You cannot fix weakness you do not see. The suck shows you exactly what needs strengthening. Civilians avoid the suck and never discover their weaknesses. Warriors embrace the suck and see clearly what requires development. The suck builds resilience. Easy conditions build nothing. You handle easy. Congratulations. That proves nothing about your capacity for difficult. The suck tests your limits, pushes your boundaries, demands more than you think you can give, then demands more again. This demand builds resilience, the capacity to endure, the ability to continue when everything suggests stopping. You have a choice. Stay in easy conditions and never build resilience. Enter the suck and forge unbreakable toughness. The suck separates pretenders from performers. Everyone claims mental toughness during comfort. Everyone says they would persevere during ease. The suck tests whether claims match reality. Most people fail the test. The suck arrives. They crumble. They quit. They run back to comfort. This is why most people never achieve anything difficult. They cannot handle the suck that difficulty requires. Warriors handle the suck. This is what makes them warriors. Not talent, not genetics. Willingness to endure what others avoid. That is the key. The suck is unavoidable on the path to anything worthwhile. Building a business involves the suck. Long hours, high stress, constant uncertainty, financial pressure. Building elite fitness involves the suck. Brutal workouts, strict nutrition, physical discomfort, mental discipline. Building strong relationships involves the suck. Difficult conversations, emotional vulnerability, compromise, growth. Everything worthwhile requires the suck. You cannot avoid the suck and achieve the goal. You must embrace the suck to reach anything that matters. Civilians do not understand this. They want the results without the suck. They want the fitness without the brutal workouts. They want the business without the long hours. They want the relationship without the difficult conversations. They want success without suffering. This is fantasy. This is impossible. This is why they fail. They quit when the suck arrives because they never expected the suck. They thought there was an easy path. There is no easy path. There is only the suck or surrender. Warriors expect the suck. Warriors know that anything difficult involves suck. The knowing makes them prepared. The suck arrives. Warriors are not surprised. Warriors do not quit. Warriors embrace. They lean into the difficulty. They acknowledge the discomfort. They continue anyway. This is the warrior mentality, not enjoyment of suffering. Recognition that suffering is the price. Willingness to pay the price. You have a choice. Keep avoiding the price and keep failing to achieve the goal. Or pay the price through embracing the suck and achieve what civilians cannot. Consider what embrace the suck means practically. You are in the workout. Your muscles burn. Your lungs scream. Your mind begs to stop. This is the suck. The civilian response is quit. The workout is too hard. This is too uncomfortable. Stop now. The warrior response is embrace. This is supposed to be hard. This discomfort means growth. Continue. Same suck, different response. The civilian quits and stays weak. The warrior continues and becomes strong. You're building the business. The hours are crushing. The stress is constant. The progress is slower than expected. This is the suck. The civilian response is quit. This is too hard. This is not worth it. Give up. The warrior response is embrace. This is what building requires. This difficulty is the process. Continue. Same suck, different response. The civilian quits and stays ordinary. The warrior continues and builds something extraordinary. That is the key. The suck is not punishment. The suck is the process. The process of building anything worthwhile involves suck. If there is no suck, you are not building anything difficult. If there is no suck, you are not challenging yourself. If there is no suck, you're staying comfortable. And comfort builds nothing. You have a choice. Stay comfortable and build nothing. Enter the suck and build everything you want. This requires reversing your relationship with discomfort. Right now, you avoid discomfort. This must reverse. You must seek discomfort. Actively, deliberately, voluntarily. Not because you are masochistic. Because you are strategic. Voluntary discomfort builds capacity for involuntary discomfort. The cold shower you choose prepares you for the cold circumstances you do not choose. The difficult workout you select builds strength for difficult situations that select you. The uncomfortable conversation you initiate trains courage for uncomfortable conflicts that find you. Warriors build voluntary discomfort into daily life. Every day contains chosen difficulty. Physical challenge, mental challenge, emotional challenge, social challenge. These are not required. These are voluntary. These are training for the difficulties that will be required. That is the key. You create optional suck to prepare for mandatory suck. The optional suck is controlled, manageable, scaled to current capacity. The mandatory suck is uncontrolled, unpredictable, often beyond current capacity. The person who never practiced with optional suck collapses when mandatory suck arrives. You have a choice right now. Continue your comfort addiction and continue being weak, or embrace voluntary discomfort and start building strength. This is not about suffering for suffering's sake. This is about strategic preparation. You know life will bring difficulty. You know challenges will arrive. You know the suck is inevitable. So you prepare by choosing voluntary suck that trains you for involuntary suck. The civilian avoids all suck until suck becomes unavoidable. The warrior trains through voluntary suck, so involuntary suck is manageable. Start today. Choose one voluntary discomfort. Cold shower, extra hard workout, difficult conversation, public vulnerability, financial fast. Choose one. Do it. Notice the resistance. Notice the discomfort. Embrace both. This is training. Do this daily. Different voluntary discomforts. Same embrace. After 30 days of voluntary suck, you are different, stronger, tougher, more resilient. After 1 year, you're transformed. The person who embraces suck daily for 1 year is unrecognizable from the person who avoided suck daily for 1 year. That is the key. Embrace the suck is not one-time choice. Embrace the suck is daily practice. Every day, you choose difficulty over ease, challenge over comfort, growth over stagnation. This daily choosing builds the warrior mentality, the mindset that does not run from difficulty, the character that handles whatever arrives, the strength that comes only through continuous engagement with the suck. Civilians avoid. Warriors embrace. Choose which one you will be. You understand now that comfort addiction destroys strength. You understand that difficulty builds strength. You understand that embracing the suck is non-negotiable for warrior development. Stop avoiding discomfort. Start embracing it. The suck is not your enemy. The suck is your forge. Enter the forge. Let the suck build you into something unbreakable. This is how warriors are made. Through continuous voluntary engagement with difficulty that comfort seekers spend their lives avoiding. You embrace the suck now. Next, you must understand when battles are won. Chapter 8. Win the morning, win the day, win the life. The first hour of your day determines everything. Not metaphorically, literally. The first hour sets trajectory, establishes momentum, creates tone, determines whether you command your day or your day commands you. That is the key. Warriors win the morning. Civilians surrender the morning. The morning battle determines every subsequent battle. When the morning and the day becomes easier, lose the morning and the day becomes harder. This is not theory. This is pattern repeated across every successful person who ever lived. Consider what happens when you lose the morning. The alarm sounds. You hit snooze. First battle lost. You eventually wake late. Rushed. Reactive. Already behind. You skip your morning routine. No training. No stillness. No mission review. You grab whatever food is convenient. You check your phone immediately. Email. Messages. Social media. Other people's priorities flood your mind before you establish your own. You are now in reactive mode, responding to external demands, chasing the day instead of leading it. The morning was lost. The day will reflect that loss. Now consider what happens when you win the morning. The alarm sounds. You rise immediately. First battle won. Momentum established. You execute your morning protocol. Physical challenge that defeats comfort. Cold exposure that trains discomfort tolerance. Mental stillness that creates clarity. Mission review that establishes priorities. Controlled nutrition that fuels performance. Zero phone. Zero external input. Only internal preparation. You're now in proactive mode. Operating from your agenda. Leading the day instead of being led by it. The morning was won. The day will reflect that victory. You have a choice. Lose the morning and fight uphill all day, or win a morning and operate from advantage all day. Most people lose the morning. They hit snooze. They scroll their phone in bed. They skip their routine. They start reactive. Then they wonder why their days feel chaotic, why they never accomplish their goals, why they always feel behind. The answer is simple. They lose the morning. Every day, the pattern compounds. One lost morning creates one difficult day. 365 lost mornings create one wasted year. That is the key. The morning battle compounds. When a morning today and today becomes easier. When a morning tomorrow and tomorrow becomes easier. When the morning every day for 1 month and the entire month reflects accumulated morning victories. When a morning every day for 1 year and your entire life trajectory changes. Not because mornings are magic, because consistency compounds. The advantage you create each morning stacks. After 1 year of 1 mornings versus 1 year of lost mornings, you are not slightly ahead. You are exponentially ahead. Warriors understand this completely. The morning is non-negotiable. The morning is sacred. The morning is where battles are won before most people wake up. The warrior does not hope to have a good morning. The warrior engineers the good morning through deliberate protocol. Wake time decided in advance. No snooze. No negotiation. Immediate physical challenge. Movement that proves dominance over comfort's pull. Cold exposure. Training discomfort tolerance before comfort can establish dominance. Stillness. Creating mental clarity before chaos can create confusion. This protocol is not suggestion. This protocol is command. You have a choice. Command your morning through deliberate ritual, or let your morning command you through reactive chaos. The civilian wakes whenever. Checks phone immediately. Lets external input determine internal state. Skips physical challenge because not feeling like it. Eats whatever. Starts the day controlled by circumstances and feelings. The warrior wakes at predetermined time. Ignores phone completely. Creates internal state through deliberate practice. Executes physical challenge regardless of feelings. Eats according to plan. Starts the day in complete control. Consider the psychological difference these two approaches create. The civilian who hits snooze 3 times starts the day having already surrendered 3 times. Already trained for weakness. Already established pattern of choosing comfort over commitment. The day continues this pattern. Difficult task arrives. The mind remembers the snooze pattern. Surrender is already practiced. Avoidance becomes likely. The warrior who rose immediately starts the day having already won. Already trained for discipline. Already established pattern of choosing commitment over comfort. The day continues this pattern. Difficult task arrives. The mind remembers the rising pattern. Execution is already practiced. Completion becomes likely. That is the key. Your morning is training for your day. The morning battle trains you for every subsequent battle. Win the morning and you practice winning. Lose the morning and you practice losing. Practice winning and winning becomes your pattern. Practice losing and losing becomes your pattern. You become what you practice. The person who practices winning every morning for 1 year becomes someone who wins. The person who practices losing every morning for 1 year becomes someone who loses. Same mornings, different practices, different identities, different lives. You have a choice right now. Continue losing your mornings and continue wondering why your life does not change. Or start winning your mornings and watch everything transform. The morning is the leverage point. The small change that creates massive results. You cannot control everything in your day. You can control how your day begins. You cannot control all outcomes. You can control your morning inputs. The morning is yours, completely. No one can take your morning unless you surrender it. The warrior's morning protocol is specific. Wake at predetermined time. No snooze. Zero negotiation. The time is decided the night before. When the alarm sounds, you rise. This is the first battle. Win it. Every day. Immediately after rising, physical challenge. Push-ups, pull-ups, run, lift. Something that demands physical effort. Something that defeats the body's preference for staying still. This proves that your mind commands your body, not the other way around. 5 minutes minimum. Intensity matters more than duration. Make it hard. After physical challenge, cold exposure. Cold shower. Ice bath. Something that triggers discomfort. Something your body protests against. 3 minutes minimum. This trains discomfort tolerance. This proves you can override physical protest with mental command. This builds the capacity that carries into everything else. After cold exposure, stillness. 10 minutes minimum. Sitting, breathing, no input, no phone, no music, no stimulation, just stillness. This creates mental clarity. This centers focus. This establishes calm before chaos can establish anxiety. After stillness, mission review. 5 minutes. What is today's mission? What are the 3 non-negotiable outcomes? What is the single most important task? Write these down. Make them explicit. Clarity eliminates confusion. After mission review, control nutrition. Eat according to plan, not according to convenience, not according to craving, according to plan. This maintains discipline. This continues the pattern of choosing commitment over comfort. Total protocol time, 30 to 45 minutes. This investment creates advantage that lasts all day. You have a choice. Invest 30 minutes winning your morning or waste entire days losing to reactive chaos. The math is obvious. 30 minutes of deliberate morning protocol creates 8 to 10 hours of focused productive day versus 0 minutes of morning protocol creating 8 to 10 hours of distracted reactive day. The return on investment is massive. That is the key. The morning is not time lost. The morning is advantage gained. The time you invest in morning protocol returns multiplied throughout the day. Civilians cannot see this. They think waking early is sacrifice. They think morning protocol is burden. They think hitting snooze is winning extra rest. This is backwards. Waking early is investment. Morning protocol is advantage creation. Hitting snooze is surrendering your best hours to unconsciousness while your competition wakes and works. The civilian who hits snooze is not resting. The civilian is practicing surrender. The warrior who rises is not suffering. The warrior is practicing victory. You choose which practice you want. Consider what 1 year of 1 mornings creates. 365 consecutive days of rising immediately. Physical challenge, cold exposure, stillness, mission clarity, controlled nutrition. Every single day, no exceptions, no negotiations. 365 consecutive victories before breakfast. The compound effect becomes staggering. The discipline built, the momentum created, the identity forged. After 1 year of this, you are unrecognizable. Not because any single morning was transformative, because 365 mornings compound into complete transformation. That is the key. Win the morning, win the day, win the life. This is not slogan. This is sequence. The morning victory creates daily advantage. The daily advantage creates weekly progress. The weekly progress creates monthly achievement. The monthly achievement creates yearly transformation. The yearly transformation creates life change. It all starts in the morning. The first hour, the first battle. Win that battle and everything else becomes easier. Lose that battle and everything else becomes harder. You understand now that mornings determine days. You understand that days determine lives. You understand that the morning is the leverage point where small, consistent effort creates massive compound results. Stop surrendering your mornings. Start winning them. Design your morning protocol tonight. Wait time, physical challenge, cold exposure, stillness, mission review, controlled nutrition. Decide the protocol. Execute tomorrow. Execute every day after. Win the morning. Win the day. Win the life. It starts tomorrow, before everyone else wakes up. You in mornings now. Next, you must eliminate what destroys warriors. Chapter 9. No excuses. Only execution or failure. You have too many excuses. Reasons why you did not execute. Explanations for why things did not happen. Justifications for why you fell short. These excuses feel legitimate. They feel like valid reasons. They feel like you're being reasonable and honest about obstacles. You are not. You are practicing failure. That is the key. Excuses are not explanations. Excuses are permission slips for continued failure. Warriors eliminate the excuse vocabulary entirely. Civilians speak fluent excuse. The difference determines who executes and who explains why they did not. Consider the excuse vocabulary you use constantly. I did not have time. I was too tired. The conditions were not right. I did not have resources. Someone else prevented me. The timing was bad. I will start when things settle down. I will execute when I feel ready. Every single one of these is excuse. Every single one is you explaining why you did not do what you said you would do. Every single one makes future failure more likely. Because excuses are practice. Practice at finding reasons not to execute. Warriors use different vocabulary. The mission was accomplished or it was not. You executed or you failed. That is the only language that exists. Not I tried. Not I almost did. Not I would have accept. Either done or not done. Either executed or failed. This binary language eliminates the comfort zone that excuses create. You cannot hide in explanation. You cannot soften failure with justification. You either did it or you did not. The result is the only thing that speaks. You have a choice. Keep making excuses that make you feel better about failure, or eliminate excuses and start executing. The first option is more comfortable. Excuses provide psychological relief. They protect ego. They make failure feel less harsh. But excuses guarantee continued failure. Every excuse you make strengthens the excuse-making pattern. Makes finding excuses easier next time. Makes execution less likely next time. The second option is less comfortable. No excuses means facing failure directly. But facing failure directly is what makes improvement possible. That is the key. Excuses prevent learning. When you excuse failure, you protect yourself from the discomfort of the failure. But that discomfort contains lessons. Why did you actually fail? What actually prevented execution? What needs to change for execution to happen? Excuses let you avoid these questions. Excuses let you blame external factors. Time, energy, resources, other people, circumstances. None of these are actually preventing you. You are preventing you. The excuse just hides this truth. Warriors face this truth directly. The mission failed, not because of time, because I did not prioritize correctly, not because of energy, because I did not manage energy effectively, not because of resources, because I did not work with available resources, not because of other people, because I let other people's actions determine my actions, not because of circumstances, because I let circumstances control me instead of controlling my response. This is ownership. This is accountability. This is what makes improvement possible. Civilians reject ownership. Civilians default to excuse. Something goes wrong. Immediate excuse. External blame. I would have succeeded, but this external factor prevented me. This pattern protects ego, protects feelings, protects self-image. But this pattern destroys growth. Because if external factors control outcomes, you have zero power to change outcomes. You're a victim, helpless, waiting for external factors to align favorably. This victim mentality guarantees continued failure. You cannot improve what you do not own. Warriors own everything. If the mission failed, I failed. Not circumstances failed me. I failed. This ownership sounds harsh. This ownership feels uncomfortable. This ownership is liberation. Because if I failed, I can change. If I own the failure, I can analyze the failure, understand the failure, learn from the failure, adjust based on the failure. Execute differently next time. The failure becomes feedback. The feedback creates improvement. The improvement leads to eventual success. But none of this is possible with excuses. Excuses stop the entire cycle. You have a choice right now. Continue making excuses and guarantee continued failure. Or eliminate excuses and make improvement possible. That is the key. No excuses is not about being harsh on yourself. No excuses is about giving yourself the feedback you need to improve. The excuse protects you from feedback. The ownership gives you feedback. Feedback is how you get better. Without feedback, you stay the same. With feedback, you evolve. The warrior wants evolution. The civilian wants protection. Choose evolution. Consider what no excuses looks like practically. You committed to training 6 days per week. You trained 4 days. The civilian says, I did not have time. I was too busy. Work was crazy. This excuse feels valid. The warrior says, I failed to execute on 2 of 6 committed days. Why did I actually fail? I did not plan training around work schedule. I let work expand to fill all available time. I did not protect training as non-negotiable. I need to schedule training before work begins. I need to treat training with same importance as work meetings. This is ownership. This creates improvement. You committed to difficult conversation. You avoided the conversation. The civilian says the timing was not right. They seem busy. I will do it when things settle down. This excuse feels reasonable. The warrior says, I failed to have the conversation I committed to having. Why did I actually fail? I was afraid. I used timing as excuse to avoid discomfort. I prioritized my comfort over my commitment. I need to schedule the conversation. I need to execute regardless of fear. I need to stop letting fear disguise itself as strategic timing. This is ownership. This creates courage. That is the key. Ownership creates solutions. Excuses create stagnation. When you own the failure, you identify what you control that caused the failure. When you excuse the failure, you identify external factors you cannot control. The first gives you power to change. The second confirms your powerlessness. Same failure, different interpretation, different future outcome. The warrior interprets failure as feedback about what to change. The civilian interprets failure as evidence that circumstances control them. This requires ruthless honesty, brutal self-assessment, willingness to see your failures clearly without the softening filter that excuses provide. Most people cannot do this. Most people need the excuse to protect their ego, need the external blame to avoid uncomfortable truth, need the justification to feel okay about failure. Warriors reject all of this. Warriors want truth more than comfort, want growth more than protection, want improvement more than ego preservation. You have a choice. Protect your ego with excuses or develop your capacity through ownership. Building the no-excuse mentality requires practice. Start today. 1 commitment. Define it clearly. Execute it completely. If you execute, acknowledge success. If you fail, own the failure completely. No external blame. No circumstantial excuse. Just ownership. What did I do or not do that caused this outcome? What will I do differently tomorrow? This is the practice. This is the pattern. Execute or fail. Own either outcome. Learn from failure. Repeat. After 30 consecutive days of this practice, something shifts. The excuse vocabulary starts disappearing. You stop automatically generating explanations for failure. You start automatically analyzing what you control that determines outcomes. After 90 days, ownership becomes natural. You do not even consider excuses anymore. You see failure. You own it. You learn from it. You adjust. You execute differently. After 1 year, you are transformed. The person who owns everything is unrecognizable from the person who excuses everything. You have a choice right now. Continue your pattern of excuse-making and continue your pattern of failure. Or eliminate excuses starting today and make success inevitable through relentless ownership and adjustment. That is the key. Success is not one perfect execution. Success is continuous cycle of execution, ownership, learning, adjustment, better execution. Excuses break this cycle. Ownership maintains this cycle. The cycle maintained long enough produces excellence. The cycle broken produces continued mediocrity. Warriors understand this completely. No excuses, only execution or failure. If execution happened, good. If failure happened, own it completely. Extract lessons. Adjust. Execute again. No time wasted on justification. No energy spent on explanation. Only ruthless assessment. Only brutal honesty. Only complete ownership. Only continuous adjustment. This is the warrior's accountability. This is what separates those who achieve from those who explain why they did not. Consider what this means for your mission. Every day, you either execute the mission or you fail. No middle ground. No partial credit. No point for trying. Either done or not done. Either executed or failed. When you execute, you strengthen the execution pattern. When you fail, you own the failure completely. Understand what you controlled that caused failure. Change what you controlled. Execute differently tomorrow. No excuses in the process. Only ownership. Only learning. Only improvement. Only eventual success. You understand now that excuses destroy progress. You understand that ownership creates progress. You understand that the vocabulary you use determines whether you improve or stagnate. Eliminate excuse vocabulary completely. Adopt ownership vocabulary exclusively. The mission was accomplished or it was not. You executed or you failed. If you failed, you own why you failed. You learn from the failure. You adjust based on learning. You execute again. This is the cycle. This is the path. This is how warriors turn failure into eventual victory. Through ownership, through learning, through relentless execution without excuse. You own everything now. Next, you must understand the final warrior commitment. Chapter 10. The warrior never quits. Relentless becomes identity. You can quit right now. The option exists constantly. Quit the workout. Quit the diet. Quit the business. Quit the relationship. Quit the mission. Quit the dream. Quitting is the easiest choice available every single moment of every single day. That is the key. The warrior recognizes that quitting is always available and chooses never to take the option. Not because quitting is impossible, because quitting is unacceptable. The warrior would rather die trying than live with the knowledge of voluntary surrender. Relentless is not feeling. Relentless is identity. This is the final distinction between warriors and civilians. Civilians quit when things get hard. Warriors continue until death makes continuation impossible. Consider what quitting actually is. Quitting is choosing temporary relief over permanent achievement. Quitting is trading the discomfort of continuing for the comfort of stopping. Quitting is prioritizing how you feel right now over what you want ultimately. Every person who quits makes this exact trade. The workout is hard. Quitting provides immediate relief from hard. But quitting costs the fitness goal. The business is struggling. Quitting provides immediate relief from struggle. But quitting costs the business outcome. The relationship is difficult. Quitting provides immediate relief from difficult. But quitting costs the relationship potential. Warriors see this trade clearly. Civilians do not. Civilians only see the immediate relief, the immediate escape from discomfort. They quit and feel better immediately. The hard thing is over. The struggle is done. The difficulty is escaped. This feels like victory. This feels like wise decision. This is defeat, because the relief is temporary. The workout you quit still needs to happen. The business struggle still needs to be endured. The relationship difficulty still needs to be worked through. Quitting did not eliminate the requirement. Quitting just guaranteed you will not achieve the outcome the requirement leads to. You have a choice. Take the immediate relief of quitting and lose the long-term achievement. or refuse to quit despite difficulty and gain the achievement that difficulty protects. Most people choose immediate relief. They quit. They feel better temporarily. Then they wonder why they never achieve anything difficult. The answer is obvious. They quit every time difficulty arrives. Achievement requires enduring difficulty. They refuse to endure. They prefer relief. They get relief and lose achievement. That is the trade they make repeatedly. That is the key. Anything worthwhile requires enduring difficulty that makes quitting attractive. The goal worth achieving is protected by difficulty that tests whether you are serious. The difficulty is not obstacle. The difficulty is filter. The difficulty eliminates everyone who is not committed. Everyone who wants the outcome but will not endure the process. Everyone who quits when process gets hard. The difficulty ensures that only those who refuse to quit reach the achievement. Warriors refuse to quit. Civilians quit. The difficulty separates them completely. Consider why most people fail to achieve their goals. Not because the goals are impossible, because the goals require sustained effort through sustained difficulty. Most people cannot sustain either. They start enthusiastic. They work hard initially. Then difficulty arrives. The initial enthusiasm fades. The work stays hard. They quit, not because they cannot continue, because continuing is uncomfortable and quitting provides relief. They choose relief. They lose the goal. The pattern repeats with the next goal, and the next, and the next. Their entire life is pattern of starting and quitting. Warriors have different pattern. Start, continue, endure difficulty, continue more, endure more difficulty, continue until achievement. No quitting in the sequence. The difficulty is expected. The difficulty is endured. The continuation is non-negotiable. This is relentless. Not feeling motivated to continue. Continuing regardless of motivation. Not enjoying the difficulty. Enduring the difficulty regardless. Not wanting to persist. Persisting regardless. Relentless means your feelings about continuing are irrelevant. You continue. Period. That is the key. This relentless continuation requires shifting from relentless as action to relentless as identity. You are not someone trying to be relentless. You are a relentless person. The distinction is massive. Try to be relentless means you constantly fight the urge to quit. You want to quit. You force yourself to continue. This creates internal warfare. The part that wants relief fights the part that wants achievement. This warfare is exhausting. Eventually, the part that wants relief wins. You quit. The try to be relentless pattern fails because it requires constant internal battle. Warriors do not fight this battle. Warriors are relentless. Identity, not effort. When relentless is identity, quitting is not even considered. You do not debate whether to quit. You do not negotiate with the urge to stop. You do not fight yourself about continuing. You continue because that is who you are. Relentless people continue. Just like tall people are tall. No effort required. No internal warfare. Just expression of identity through behavior. You have a choice. Keep trying to be relentless and keep losing internal battles. Or become relentless and eliminate the battles completely. How do you build this identity? You commit. Final commitment. Absolute commitment. The commitment that eliminates all alternatives. I will never quit. Not when things get hard. Not when progress stalls. Not when others tell me it is impossible. Not when I feel like stopping. I will never quit. This commitment becomes who you are. You are someone who does not quit. Period. Not someone trying not to quit. Someone who has eliminated quitting as option. The identity is established through the commitment. The commitment is maintained through behavior. The behavior reinforces the identity. The cycle continues. You have a choice right now. Make this commitment or continue being someone who quits when things get hard. The commitment is simple. I will never quit. 3 words. Infinite implications. Once you make this commitment, quitting is no longer available. The option is gone. When difficulty arrives, you do not consider quitting. You only consider continuing. How do I continue through this? What adjustment allows continuation? What help do I need to keep going? These questions maintain forward motion. Quitting is not in the vocabulary. Continuation is the only consideration. That is the key. Eliminate quitting as option, and continuation becomes inevitable. The path becomes simpler when quitting is not available. You have one option: continue. So you continue. You do not waste energy debating whether to quit. You do not exhaust yourself fighting the urge to stop. You continue. All energy goes to continuation. All focus goes to next step. All effort goes to forward motion. The simplicity creates power. One option: continue. Nothing else exists. This is the warrior mentality. This is relentless as identity. Consider what this means during extreme difficulty. The business is failing. Money is gone. Customers are leaving. Everything suggests quitting. The civilian quits. The difficulty is too much. The writing is on the wall. Time to stop. The warrior does not even consider quitting. The warrior asks, how do I continue? What adjustments are needed? What new approach might work? Where can I find resources? The quitting option does not exist. Only continuation exists. So continuation happens. Often the continuation finds the breakthrough. Often the refusal to quit leads to the solution. Not always. But the person who quits guarantees they will never find out. The business succeeds or fails. But the warrior who refused to quit learns lessons that the civilian who quit never learns. The warrior builds relentless identity through the refusing to quit. This identity transfers to everything else. The warrior who refuses to quit in business refuses to quit in fitness, refuses to quit in relationships, refuses to quit anywhere. The identity is consistent. Relentless person is relentless everywhere. This consistency creates cumulative advantage across entire life. You have a choice: build relentless identity or remain someone who quits when difficulty tests commitment. Building this identity requires proving it to yourself repeatedly. You face difficulty that makes quitting attractive. You refuse to quit. You continue. You prove to yourself that you are someone who does not quit. The next difficulty arrives. You refuse to quit again. You continue again. Another proof. After 10 proofs, the identity strengthens. After 50 proofs, the identity solidifies. After 100 proofs, the identity is unshakable. You are a relentless person. You have proven this 100 times. The pattern is established. The identity is real. Quitting is no longer part of who you are. That is the key. You become relentless through accumulated refusals to quit. Each refusal is proof. Each proof strengthens identity. Each strengthened identity makes next refusal easier. The cycle builds on itself. Eventually, relentless becomes effortless. Not because difficulty disappears, because your identity as relentless person makes continuation automatic. You do not fight yourself about continuing. You continue because that is who you are. The transformation from trying to be relentless to being relentless is complete. You understand now that quitting is always available. You understand that taking the quitting option guarantees failure. You understand that refusing to quit regardless of difficulty is what creates achievement. You understand that relentless must shift from action to identity. Make the commitment now. I will never quit. Say it. Mean it. Live it. Every time difficulty makes quitting attractive, refuse. Continue. Prove to yourself that you are someone who does not quit. Build the identity through accumulated proofs. Become relentless. Not someone trying to be relentless. Relentless person. This is the final warrior commitment. The commitment that ensures all other commitments are kept. The warrior never quits. You are relentless now. You have learned everything. Your mind is a battlefield. You train before battles arrive. Discipline commands while motivation is irrelevant. Pain teaches and suffering educates. You control your response instead of your circumstances. Mission defines action instead of feelings. You embrace the suck that comfort seekers avoid. You in the morning that civilians surrender. You eliminate excuses and own everything. You never quit regardless of difficulty. These 10 principles separate warriors from civilians. These 10 principles transform those who apply them. These 10 principles are now yours. But here is what matters. What you do now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, when this audiobook ends, you have a choice. Return to civilian thinking and continue getting civilian results. Or adopt warrior thinking starting immediately and watch everything change. The battlefield exists whether you acknowledge it or not. The battles happen whether you prepare or not. The question is simple. Will you fight like a warrior or lose like a civilian? Choose, then execute. The mental battlefield awaits, and warriors are always ready. You have learned 10 principles that separate warriors from civilians. Your mind is a battlefield. Fight accordingly. Train before battles arrive, not during them. Discipline is non-negotiable. Motivation is irrelevant. Pain is information. Suffering is education. Control your response, not your circumstances. Mission defines action, not feelings. Embrace the suck. Comfort makes you weak. Win the morning, win the day, win the life. No excuses, only execution or failure. Never quit. Relentless becomes identity. But here's what matters now. What you do, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Right now, when this audiobook ends, you have a choice. Return to civilian thinking and continue getting civilian results. Or adopt warrior thinking starting immediately and watch everything change. The battlefield exists whether you acknowledge it or not. The battles happen whether you prepare or not. The question is simple. Will you fight like a warrior or lose like a civilian? Choose, then execute. The mental battlefield awaits, and warriors are always ready.